What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to the DFS Picks and Prediction Show. Me, Weezy, Luke, and AJ are going to be breaking down this card, as always, from a DFS perspective. Going to talk the fight to target, fight to fade, fighter to fade, favorite dog, favorite GPP play, favorite cash play, value play, dart throw. We're going to go through the lineups last week to see who won, talk about new lineups for this week, and then answer any questions you guys have. So should be a very fun show, but I'll start with you, Weezy. Weezy, what is up? Are you looking forward to this card and kind of your first thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's a wild card for DraftKings. I was looking through this, getting prepared for the show, and we don't have any inside the distance lines that are better than minus 200 and nothing worse than plus 200. I mean, everything's kind of clumped right in the middle this week. It looks like it's kind of going to be hard to fade any particular fighter, and like nobody is jumping off the page for me. So I'm really interested to hear what everybody else has to say this week, because this is a very difficult card to cap.
I agree, and it's 12 fights. I think last week we had like 14, so 12 here. Luke, what are your first thoughts on this card?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with Weezy. It's definitely an interesting one from a DraftKings perspective. I just think there's so many different ways that you can go on a card like this, not only approaching who you target, but just your general strategy, stars and scrubs, trying to target the mid-range, depending on your contest type too. So it's really interesting. I think this honestly might be one of our funnest shows of the year, at least in the sense I think we're going to have a lot of disagreement, a lot of different selections, but all for good reasons, because I think there's a lot of different cases to be made based on how you perceive some of these fights and where the value lies.
Yeah, for sure. Cannot wait for the show. Then we have AJ as well. AJ, what is up? You looking forward to this week?
Yeah, especially because there's not a lot of obvious plays that we've seen these past couple cards where there's, big favorites, strong inside distance line, grapplers. There's not anybody on this card outside of one guy that we'll get to, I'm sure, where you're like, oh yeah, I want to lock him in. He's, got a good chance to win, and he's got a good chance to put up a big DraftKings score. I think this is a type of slate that could really challenge all DraftKings players, because there aren't a lot of obvious options and there aren't a lot of great fights to target, because as mentioned, there aren't a lot of fights that are likely to finish. So I think you could just kind of play different angles, just, do your research. I feel like the researchers rather that want to dive deep, get an edge, will really benefit on a card like this.
Yep, for sure. This is going to be a very challenging one, but should be a very fun one as well. I do want to hit up the chat before we get started. Big Show picks. First one in here. What is up? Big Show saying, let's go. We have JSJ23. He says, greasy looking card, but interested to hear everyone's thoughts. Yeah, me as well. Rick as well. A couple of great dogs this week. Let's go. Mr. Savage, level 9,000. What's good? Let's make some cheddar. I agree. We have Roy on the chat as well saying, yo, what is up, Roy? Uncool. I'm hearing Roma DeLizzi plus 186. And then Chris saying, respect, good luck. Appreciate you, Chris, for hanging out. Good luck to you as well. If y'all can please smash the like button. Also subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We go live every Tuesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, to break down this slate from a DFS perspective. So UFC Vegas 42, Holloway, Rodriguez. As always, I say we start with the fight to target. And I'm very curious to hear what everybody has to say, because it was really hard for me to pick a fight to target. So we'll start with Luke. What is your fight to target for this card here?
Yeah, once you kind of hit it, it was really tough for me to make a pick here. So this one could very well crash and burn as well. But I'm actually going to go with Jung and Kennedy. Like I said, it was tough to make a selection here, but the fight is projected to end inside the distance 55% of the time. One of the only handful of fights, that is projected to end ITD on this card, even closer to that 50% mark. But I guess my take is more so that it is in the higher weight classes. Both guys are big boys. They're going to chuck a ton of heat. Both have shown significant finishing upside to boot in the past and have defensive issues to boot. I know we can say that Kennedy's been pretty tough historically. I think you can say that. You can also say that Jung's probably been pretty tough historically. So that's kind of where this could definitely bust. But at the end of the day, Kennedy does have a 67% finish rate in his W's alongside Jung at 86. So I think both these guys are going to bang. They're going to throw down. And I do think Jung is actually one of the bigger hitters that Kennedy's fought to date as well. So I'm kind of interested to see how he hangs in that realm to boot. So I kind of like it right around that even mark for both guys in terms of their general salaries. I like this one actually to finish.
Sounds good. And I believe that is the first fight of the night as well. For me, I'm going to go with this could very well be really ugly, but give me Ben Rothwell going against Marcos Rogério de Lima. It is minus 150. Fight doesn't go to decision, which is one of the best inside the distance lines on the slate. And I know it's weird, but I feel like it's somewhat important. I feel like de Lima, if he does win, I feel like it's going to be very early. And you kind of take a look at these finish rates. Ben Rothwell, 90% finish rate. De Lima, 83% finish rate. Rothwell's been finished in 6 out of 13 losses. De Lima's been finished in 6 out of 7. So I actually do think there's going to be a finish one way or another, whether it is De Lima early, which makes him a very intriguing underdog at 7,600, or if Rothwell can kind of weather the early storm, maybe mix in takedowns, exploit that 43% takedown defense of De Lima, I could potentially see a Rothwell sub rounds 2 at rounds 3. So yeah, again, a weird fight to target, but I think it's somewhat important. AJ, how about you? What is your fight to target for this week?
Yeah, I'm right there with you with Rothwell and De Lima. I think it's one of the more likely ones to finish. And, I don't see that path for De Lima that he had that last time against Green, where he basically just took him down once around and laid on him. Rothwell will actually scramble. Rothwell is the better submission threat, in my opinion. I think Rothwell could submit De Lima. Wasn't that long ago before, De Lima was basically just wilting at the first sign of adversity. On the flip side with Rothwell, I mean, look, he's historically been pretty durable, but he's been getting hurt more and more in recent fights. He's just so hittable. He just dips his head to one side. He's 40 years old. He's just pretty slow and lumbering at this point. So as you guys alluded to, I wouldn't be surprised if De Lima put him out early with a big shot. But if he doesn't, I could see Rothwell doing the same. Or if it hits the ground, I think Rothwell could just slap on one of his front chokes and then get De Lima to tap. So it's reasonably priced, good inside distance line. I don't think it'll be sneaky, but it is one worth targeting regardless.
Sounds good. Then Weezy, how about you? What fight are you targeting for this week?
So I'm going to go with Baeza versus Khaos Williams here. It is the best inside the distance line on the slate, and both Baeza and Williams are both in the top 5 in terms of inside the distance lines on the slate. So it should be a high-scoring fight. And then when I go a little bit further into the statistics, I got Baeza landing a knockdown on 1.81% of the significant strikes that he lands. That's 1.43 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And then we got Khaos Williams landing a knockdown on 1.24% of the significant strikes that he lands. That's 0.97 knockdowns per 15 minutes. I'm looking for someone to get knocked out here inside the distance, and one of these guys to score highly. Neither one of them has ever been knocked down, though. So, this is one of those things. It's like Luke said, any one of these picks could crash and burn this week because there's so many different ways these fights can go. But you got two guys with a ton of power here. They're both in the top 5 for inside the distance lines on the slate. And, they both hit like trucks. So that's the fight I'm going with to target.
Sounds good. And I actually do think that's one of the best fights on the card as well. Should be really fun from a fan perspective. Dad Trader in the chat, sub fam. What is up, Dad Trader? Only bet plus saying Yair's cardio is awful. It's awful compared to Max Holloway's. I'll say that. Got Thiago in a nasty parlay with Rothwell and Max Holloway. That is very nasty, but I do like that as well. So let's move on to the next one. We have the fight to fade. And like we talked about, this was so tough for me. There's not one fight that I would completely fade on this slate. But I guess the one I went with was I went with Woodson going against England. And I'm more so on the fade Woodson side, especially at 9,200. If I was to play anything, it probably would be a shot in the dark on Colin England here at 7,000. But if Woodson does win at 9,200, he's not going to go for any takedowns. He's not going to get any control time. He's just going to be boxing up England for probably 15 minutes. So if I had to pick one fight to fade, it would be that one if I was absolutely forced to. Weezy, what is your fight to fade for this week?
So I'm going with Spencer versus Letson. But I want to give that same caveat that you gave, Brady, and that I'm not fading any fights this week. It's a really hard fight or a really hard week to target one particular fight or fade any particular fight because everything's kind of clumped in the middle. All the inside the distance lines are clustered between 66 and 33% implied probability. So women's fights have the lowest, the 3 women's fights on this slate have the lowest inside the distance props. So it makes sense to fade one of those fights. Letson versus Spencer will probably be pretty slow paced. And we didn't even see Spencer go for any takedowns in her last fight. So if this winds up just being on the feet, being a striking battle for 3 rounds and nobody gets knocked out, it'll probably be the lowest scoring fight of the night.
Yep, for sure. If Spencer comes out there and for some reason doesn't shoot a takedown again, it very well could be. Luke, how about you? What fight are you fading for this week?
Yeah, so I'm taking the cop out here with the the lowest implied to finish with Lee and Calvillo. Obviously, Calvillo's a pretty solid submission grappler. She's finished a handful of girls via sub. She is the better grappler in this matchup. Her subbing Lee isn't out of the question, but Lee's a decent grappler in her own right as well, and hasn't been submitted, I don't think, in her pro career. Hasn't been for a second at least. So I think she can at least be competent, assuming Calvillo is able to land takedowns here. I do want to throw out the caveat kind of with you guys as well. I wouldn't entirely fade this fight for Calvillo potential takedown upside and scoring well in that capacity, potentially finding a submission. But in terms of an overall fight to target, to fade, really the only finish potential I see in this fight is a Calvillo sub, which I still don't think is like very, very high percentage. Both girls haven't shown to be, historic power threats either. I more so see it being your traditional pitter patter WMMA fight with some grappling mixed in. So that's what I'm going with this week.
Sounds good. So 3 different ones so far. AJ, you got one of the same, or are you going different here as well?
I'm right there with you, Brady. It's got to be the Woodson or the England fight for me, or Woodson and the England fight. Woodson 9,200. It's just not going to cut it for me. He's not a dangerous striker. He's got good volume, but unless if you're Billy Quarantillo or fighting Shane Burgos or Max Holloway that we'll get to, you need a bunch of volume. In England, he's just not that willing to engage in a firefight like those guys. I think he's going to try to wrestle Woodson, but largely be unsuccessful. I do think that Woodson could be exploited in that area of his game. But as it's been touched on before, England, he just doesn't attempt a lot of takedowns. Not as much as you'd like to say bet on him that he'd go out there and just take Woodson down with consistency and maybe sub him. So I just largely think we get a range striking battle here where Woodson probably picks him apart, but he's just not that dangerous on the feet. So even though England was knocked out not too long ago, I think it most likely goes the distance where Woodson probably wins like a hum-ho decision.
I can agree with that. Boss Nick in the chat. What is up, Boss Nick? How you doing? But moving on to the next thing, we have the fighter to fade. I'll kind of start this one out. I'm just going to take the easy way out here. I'm going to fade Yair Rodriguez, 6,700. The reason being is I'm going to have so much Max Holloway. I mean, Max Holloway is a guy that you have to have a ton of every time he fights, no matter really who he's fighting. So yeah, I'm not going to play much in Yair. If he does win, it's probably some type of knockout, but Max Holloway has never been knocked out. He's never even been knocked down, so I don't think it's all that likely. Give me Yair Rodriguez taking the easy way out here. How about you, Luke? Who are you fading this week?
I'm going to Song Yadong at 8.4K. He's got the second worst inside the distance line of anyone above the 8K range at roughly like a 22% implied probability. And, for good reason. He does have fast hands. He does, hit reasonably hard for the division, but I think the context here in this matchup is he's also facing the best defensive striker that he's fought to date in Julio Arce, who does defend distance strikes at 70%. Yes, Arce did get dropped by Moisés, but that was also up at 145 pounds. That needs to be noted. He's back down at 135, so I don't think that necessarily translates. In terms of the ground, Song doesn't really wrestle much. Arce has pretty good takedown defense. He's a competent defensive grappler. So I just see the primary path to victory if Song is to win this fight. It's going to be primarily a striking-based decision, and I just don't think that's what's going to do it for him on this card particularly.
Sounds good. How about you, Weezy? What is your fighter to fade?
So this week I'm going with Sean Woodson. I'm going with a lot of the same things that you were talking about. England, if he's smart, should try to wrestle this guy. Yeah, his boots, he's pissed. He should try to wrestle this kid because he's at a huge reach and height and technical striking disadvantage. If he's able to push a wrestling heavy game plan, even in a win, Woodson probably won't score well against Zalal. When Woodson was like a -2. Look, he's barking. That means England's going to win this fight.
There we
go. Against Zalal, though, and Zalal pushed an extremely wrestling heavy pace against Woodson because Woodson's a great boxer. He's got great length. He's very difficult to deal with in this weight class. But the thing is, he doesn't bring that power with him. And we saw Julian Erosa just walk through his punches in the third round there because the punches weren't hurting. And when he realized that the punches weren't hurting, he just went after him. And Zalal kind of did the same thing, but he was unsuccessful getting those takedowns. But in that fight, I think Woodson was like 8,800, 8,900. He only scored 60 points against Yusuf Zalal in a win. So if England does push that wrestling heavy pace here, even in a win, Woodson probably doesn't even score more than 70, 75 points. You don't want to pay up 9,000 or more for somebody that's going to bring you that kind of a score. So that's the guy I'm going to be fading this week.
I'm with you there. And then AJ, how about you? Who are you fading this week?
So one sneaky contrarian angle on a card like this is to fade what I think will be one of the more popular underdogs. People love to target the underdogs that are riding on momentum, especially ones that have winning streaks. And I think Joel Álvarez at 7,200, despite it being a perceived bad style match, will get some love. You know, he's won by guard submission these past 2 times, and then before that he won by ground and pound stoppage. So it may create the illusion that he's just going to keep winning like that, right? But I largely think it's a good fight for Moisés, and that just takes me off of Álvarez. It doesn't put me necessarily like all in on Moisés, but he I think will be popular enough. He will be talked up enough just based on his recent performances to where I just feel more than okay pulling back exposure on him and then just playing some underdogs that I think have a better chance to win and having a better chance of scoring highly if they win.
Yep, definitely a good point there. But let us move on to our favorite dog, and let's start with Weezy. Weezy, what is your favorite dog?
So this week I'm going to go with Khaos Williams, even though I think Baeza wins the fight. He's got the 15th lowest salary, but the third best inside the distance prop. Enough said. That's the kind of value you're looking for out of your dog. If they're in the top 3 to finish the fight according to Vegas, and you're getting them at number 15 in salary, I think that's a great way to spend your money. The dude has a ton of power. He's slept some dudes before, and Baeza is kind of hittable. So that's my favorite dog of the week.
I don't think Bootsy agrees with you, man.
No, I don't hear him at all, man.
So now
I don't hear him at all.
I know
he loves Colin Anglin this week. I don't know why, but I guess it's just that kind of week, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to go against Bootsy here because I'm with you, Weezy. I do like Khaos Williams as a favorite dog. Like you said, like he's the underdog with the best inside the distance line. We have seen Baeza hurt multiple times. So yeah, I think there's a good chance you could potentially knock out Baeza. I think it's gonna be a really fun fight. I think there's gonna be a lot of great exchanges, and he could potentially catch him. So yeah, at 7,700, I don't mind some Khaos Williams, even the Bootsy doesn't really agree with that. Luke, how about
He's
you?
barking right now, dude. Sorry, I was muted.
Thank
He's
God.
been barking the entire time you were talking.
All right, thank you. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I'm going to actually complete the trifecta here. Like I said, there's a card, on this card, there isn't like an overt ton of clear options, at least from a dog or value-based perspective of someone who you think can score highly and win. I'm right there with you guys. You touched on it, Weezy, third best ITD line on the slate. Hits hard, finishes 58% of his wins. I think it's also important to note the guy has never actually been finished in spanning his pro or amateur career, over 29 fights. Baeza, conversely, he's never been finished, but you touched on, he's been hurt before. He was hurt in the Reina fight, hurt in the Brown fight, dinged a bit in the Pons fight, and only defends strikes at 52%. So you put that all into the soup. 7.7 for Khaos. I concede the fact that he's probably going to be a popular dog, but he's still going to be a guy that I'm going to want a decent number of shares of for his upside in the W.
I like it. So me, you, and Weezy all on Williams. AJ, how about you on Williams or somebody else here?
Yeah, make it 4 for Williams.
Wow.
I mean, I know he's the most obvious guy, but he's also the best guy, I think, down there, just in terms of like round winning or just winning purely, and then also just finishing upside, right? Like you guys said, Baeza, he does not have good striking defense. He stands very upright, head on the center line. I do have my concerns for Williams if Baeza wants to take this to the ground. I don't think that Williams is a great defensive grappler, but Baeza just doesn't shoot takedowns that often. So maybe there's merit to playing some Baeza as well. I will take some shares, but Williams to me is a very intriguing option at 77 in a fight that can be contested on the feet. I think he's got faster hands. I think he's got more power. And I think he's also more durable. And I know that Baeza's got his very good low calf kicks, but Williams throws them too. And Baeza does struggle with them. He struggled with them against Pons. He struggled with them against other fights, and we have seen him slow down. So I think there's merit to Khaos going out here, getting a knockout. He's coming off a good one against Emmelsberger that aged rather nicely. And I think he could get his hand raised here.
Yep, looks like all 4 of us are on Williams here. Dad saying, I know Khaos, he's got this fight. Chris saying, I love Baeza, but he does keep his head on a straight line too much. Freddie liking Alves too. Roy saying Baeza the better fighter to me, but I didn't like how he responded to Ponzi's pressure. Khaos is a guaranteed to press. Freddie also saying Delidzi mother truckers. And then Jeremiah saying, I love me some Weezy. There you go, Weezy. Got a fan in the chat. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. We have our favorite GPP play. For GPP, we're looking for some high upside here, a high ceiling. We'll start with you, AJ. What are you looking at here for a GPP play?
So I said I didn't want to go all in on this guy, but I do want more of this guy than the field, and that's Thiago Moisés at 9K. I think he will be very, very low owned because of the fight logs, right? He hasn't scored that well really in any of his fights except for Kurt Hollabaugh, but this is a very forgiving matchup for him to put up a lot of points against Joel Alvarez, who defends takedowns at a whopping 0%. And he also has given up a lot of control time. Moisés is a very high-level submission grappler. I would be stunned if Alvarez got another guard submission. Anything is possible, of course, but I think it's very unlikely here. I also think that Moisés is the much better striker here. I don't think that Alvarez has good defense. Specifically, he's susceptible to low kicks, very counterable, head completely on the center line. Think that Moisés is likely to go out here, lane takedowns, earn a lot of control time, and from the top position, he could pass guard. He could maybe get a stoppage, but he could get control time, rack up some strikes, and for 9K low ownership, I'm interested in him.
I like that call. I like the call a lot. Luke, how about you? What are you looking for a GBP play here?
Yeah, so kind of a pivot for me as well in this upper K range, and someone who I don't think is going to get a ton of ownership is going to be Felicia Spencer at 9.1K. She is coming off a relatively underwhelming performance in her outing against Dumont. There's some fight IQ things there that I thought Felicia should have pursued takedowns a bit more, 100%. But as a result, I think she's intriguing on DraftKings because I think there are gigantic question marks on Leah Letson coming off a 3+ year layoff and suffering like massive health issues in that time frame to boot. So curious to see how she even comes back. But what we do know, and from we do have on tape available for her, she's having competitive minutes with pretty bottom of the barrel girls in Bea Malecki and Julia Stolyarenko. Spencer's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. When she decides to pursue the wrestling, I think it's decent. We know she has a really strong top game. I think the levels on the ground here are pretty different, not to mention that Spencer just in general is the best submission grappler that Letson has fought by a massive, massive margin. So in terms of being potentially even different at this top range, I think you can get some leverage here because people might look at it as a chick fight. There might be some recency bias on the last spot for Spencer. But if Spencer comes out here and does what Spencer has done in the aggregate over her career, she lands takedowns and she finishes this girl. So at 9.1, I like her in GPPs.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be alone on this one, but Luke, yeah, I'm with you here. I do like Spencer as the GPP play. The only problem is I don't like a lot of things about her. I don't like the fight IQ. I don't like her wrestling, but if she can't get the fight down to the mat, she is very good. Like you mentioned, a black belt in BJJ. We saw what she was able to do to Megan Anderson. Took her down, submitted her pretty easily. Took down Zara Farron. Her ground and pound's very good. So yeah, if she can get down Letson, I think there's going to be a huge gap in skill on the mat. So I'm just hoping she does take her down. If she does, there's a good chance he probably finishes Letson. So yeah, I'm with you there. Spencer 9100. I do think she'll be lowish owned as well. Weezy, how about you? What are you liking for a GPP play?
So I'm going with an underdog here for a GPP play. I like Rafael Alves this week. He's got the third best first round prop on the slate, and he's dirt cheap. I think at like 7,500. He's very explosive early in fights. Hell, he caught Demirez Magulov early. Diakise's been away for over a year now, so maybe if he's a little bit rusty, Alves could catch him early. And I'm kind of low key impressed with Alves. He's got a good submission game. He's explosive. He hits hard. And consequently, on the Diakise side, we haven't seen him for a minute. He's obviously fought the much better brand of competition, but he's just kind of okay as well. I don't think he's spectacular in any way here. And, if he has any kind of rust at all from being away for like a year, I think Alves could catch him early and get a ton of points and break the slate.
I like it. Nice call. I think he'll probably be somewhat low owned as well. So yeah, I do like the call quite a bit. So we'll move on to our favorite cash play. We're looking for somebody with a nice floor, somebody who is safe. I'll kind of kick this one off. For me, I'm going to take the easy route, and I'm going to go with Max Holloway, 9,500. I'm going to have him in pretty much every single one of my lineups this week, especially cash. I feel like you absolutely have to play him in cash. His floor is so great. His ceiling is one of the best ceilings in the entire UFC. He landed like 445 significant strikes last fight. I think you absolutely have to play him. So it's a no-brainer for me. Max Holloway, my cash play this week. How about you, Weezy?
Same thing, man. Max Holloway. I mean, let's not overthink it. He's the easiest pick on the slate. The guy's just a volume monster. And we got 5 rounds to go with. And if he finishes him inside the distance, he'll pay off his salary. So yeah, it's got to be Holloway. I mean, he's by far the biggest favorite on the card, and he's got one of the best inside the distance props on the card. The guy's a champion. I see him winning this fight from pillar to post. So yeah, that's my pick.
Don't disagree there. Luke, how about you for a cash play?
Yeah, I'll complete the trifecta, no in-depth breakdown. I think Yair's pretty much has to clip him within maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes of this fight. If not, he's screwed. And even then, he's definitely not a lock to win the early rounds either. It's a pretty bad style matchup for him. He's pretty KO or bust. Once again, Holloway, pretty durable. I think the last guy he was finished by was Poirier, which was almost a decade ago, which was by sub. So super low percentage, to your point. Kind of just a free square, I think, that you have to have because everybody else will, and he's going to end, or help you in cash, I should say.
Yep, no disagreement from me. And then AJ, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Yair. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going with Max Holloway. 9,500, right? I think he does have sneaky finishing upside. When I watch Yair on tape, he does slow down. When you push the pace on him, when you get in his face, I know he went 5 rounds with Jung at altitude, but that fight was a very not like meager tempo, but that was definitely a lot slower than the pressure that Holloway will bring. Certainly against Cater. Yair, yeah, he's dangerous at kicking range, right? But like he's not the best boxer. Does a lot of taunting. He's not a good wrestler. And there's a chance that he just looks rusty coming in here. 2+ year layoff, USADA suspension related. I've just never been that high on his style. I mean, look, I know that his only losses are to Frankie, and he lost once on the regionals, but like he's got clear weaknesses in his game. One of them is boxing and pressure and pace. Holloway brings all of those. Look the best he ever has. Think he wants another shot at Volkanovski or whoever's the champion next. Sign me up for Max Holloway.
Yep, looks like we are all in agreement on the cash play there. Max Holloway, pretty clear one there. So next we'll go to our favorite value play. We'll start with you, Luke. Who are you liking for some value this week?
All right, we're gonna get really different on this one, boys. we're gonna raise some eyebrows on this guy here. I should say, girl. I'm actually going with homegirl Liana Jojua at 7.4K. Her inside the distance line isn't very good, but I think she does have a relatively decent chance to finish. She'll let it fly on the feet. Courtney Casey only defends strikes at 52%. Not to mention that Casey only stuffs takedowns at 38%, which is about as bad as you can get for the overall sample size, which definitely suggests statistical significance there. I think it's also an important stat that I should say that 40% of her fight time is spent in the grappling. Of that 40%, she is being controlled 88% of the time. She has absolutely no get-up game. She will play guard. Jojua will attempt takedowns. I think one takedown for Jojua can be the round in this fight, and she does have an 87% finish rate in her Ws and is a competent submission grappler to boot. So I think at 7.4K, it's once again, it's not something I have a supreme degree of confidence in, but I think she's going to be low owned. I do think she has finishing upside. I do think she has wrestling upside. I do think she has control upside. And I do think she just has peppering non-significant shots type upside. So at 7.4 on a girl who's, giving up control in roughly 50% of her overall fight time, I'm willing to have some shares.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not the biggest Jojo guy, but you can't deny that Casey has like a 38% takedown defense. So yeah, we'll see what happens. For me, I'm gonna get a little crazy. Maybe this is crazy, maybe it's not, but I really like Roma Delizzi this week, especially at the price tag of 7,300. I really don't understand the price tag here. I'm actually really impressed with a lot of what I see from Roman Delizzi. The only problem is the guy has really bad fight IQ, but we saw in his last fight, he actually showed some really good fight IQ. He did what he needed to do to win. And I really like that. I know everybody was calling his fight really boring, but I actually enjoyed it. It was actually refreshing to see him not, make a really dumb mistake like he had in the past. So if he does fight smart here, if he can get takedowns, we saw Phil Haas, who has horrible top control, was able to control Dawkins for over 5 minutes of that fight. Dawkins made Haas look like he had really good cardio, and Haas controlled him for the whole third round. So yeah, Delizzi is a very good grappler. His striking solid as well. I think if Delizzi, approaches this fight in a very smart way, I think it's a very winnable fight for him. I mean, I'm getting him at 7,300. So for me, that's my favorite value play. How about you, AJ? What are you liking for some value here?
Yeah, it's going to be Cynthia Calvillo for me. There's definitely some risk with this play because there's times where she just should wrestle in a matchup and she just doesn't for whatever reason, a couple of recent ones. But assuming she does, that's usually her MO. I think she could take Andrea Lee down, who has 57% takedown defense. Andrea is coming off of a good win against Antonia Shevchenko. However, it was just the fight prior. She was taken down 4 times by Roxanne Modafferi. gave up 4 minutes and 49 seconds of control. The fight before that, taken down twice on 4 attempts by Lauren Murphy, controlled for about 2 minutes and 31 seconds. Cynthia is a really good grappler, really good scrambler, dangerous submission grappler. I think if she takes Andrea down, she could rack up some control time, some non-significant strikes. And even though I favor Andrea on the feet, I do think that Calvillo can make it competitive with her finesse style, improving boxing, good kicks. And Lee just doesn't present nearly the danger that Andrade does. So I definitely think there's going to be some success for Calvillo. But most importantly, what I'm investing in here is takedowns and control time for 8,200. If she gets 90 points or more, I'll be satisfied. So sign me up for Calvillo at 82.
Sounds good. I like that one as well. Preston in the building. What is up, Preston? A little late, but he is here. Shout out to him. And then Weezy, how about you? Favorite value play?
So for me, it's going to be Ben Rothwell this week. He's got the second best inside the distance line on this card, but the 8th highest salary. So there's a lot of value there. De Lima's been finished in 6 of his 7 career losses, and in all 5 of his UFC losses, he's been finished inside the distance. I think there's a lot of value here in Big Ben. I've got a bet on Ben Rothwell here too. And, I was saying on Stat Diggers, I think, De Lima's just kind of like blown up light heavyweight here. This guy's getting choked out by Gods and Murad Antigulov. I don't think he has even one impressive UFC win. And for a guy with terrible conditioning, I think it's a really bad matchup with Ben Rothwell. If he doesn't get him out of there in the first 2-3 minutes, Rothwell's going to march him down and break him. So at the 8th highest salary, but second best inside the distance line, I think there's a ton of value on Big Ben Rothwell this week.
Yep. I don't feel great about it, but I'm very high on Ben Rothwell myself this week. Pocket QB Lamar Jackson saying Rothwell by submission plus a 550. That's kind of how I see it going as well, Pocket QB. But we'll keep moving on, and now we'll go to our dart throw. And I'll start this one off. So for me, I know I said I'm fading this fight, but I think Colin Anglin could be an interesting dart throw because if he does win, he's 7K. He's going to wrestle. And I was really close to outright picking him. The only problem, and AJ mentioned this, was he doesn't wrestle as much as he really should. Going back and looking at some of his fights outside of the UFC, looks like he kind of fell in love with the striking. He has power. He's knocking guys out, but he's not going to go out here and, outstrike a guy like Woodson. He's not going to knock out Woodson. He's going to have to come out here and wrestle for 15 minutes. And I don't know if he has the gas tank to do that. I don't know if he'll have success, but we have seen Woodson taken down. His takedown defense is really good, but Terrence McKinney was able to have success in the first round, control him the whole round, controlled him for half the second round as well till he knocked out McKinney. So we'll see what happens. But Colin Anglin, if he comes in here with a good game plan of trying to take down Woodson nonstop, I very well could see him potentially winning this fight. So 7,000, I think it's worth a little bit of flyer and a little bit of a dart throw there. How about you, Luke? What are you looking at for a dart throw?
Yeah, I'm actually going to parrot your point there. I'm going Anglin at 7K as well. Obviously, there's some concern to your point. He's not necessarily the guy diving on legs for 15 minutes, but if you put the style matchup into context, he pretty much has to do that here. And just as a result, at 7K for a guy who I almost know is going to at least try to maximize that outcome. And a guy in Woodson we've at least seen struggle when he's been on the floor before as well. You touched on the McKinney fight. We even saw Zalal force a split, even when he pushed some of that pace too. We obviously saw Rosa snag up that sub. So at 7K, and in theory, if he's able to have some success or at least moderate success there, he's not getting his face boxed off by Woodson at range 2. So I think he could be somewhat sneaky at 7K.
Yep, for sure. I think it all depends on how he does approach the fight. So we'll see what happens there. How about you, AJ? What are you looking at for a dart throw?
Yeah, my favorite fighter on the card, Roman Dolidze at 7,300. I do not understand why the odds are this wide. Is it because Daukaus headbutted Holland and choked him out? I don't understand the odds. Maybe Daukaus should be favored. He's more prepared, but this just seems for an absurd price to basically they have the same skill set as fighters. They're grapplers. Both of them are grapplers to a T. Neither is a particularly great striker. Dolidze is probably more technical, more powerful, but he just has a really low pace. Daukaus has a higher pace, but he's not nearly as powerful or as defensively sound. And when I see Dolidze, I see a big, strong guy who moved down from light heavyweight. And when I watch Daukaus fight, he gets controlled in the clinch often. He has given up takedowns. You guys mentioned the Haas fight. Dolidze's got a pretty kind of passive style in terms of holding guys against the fence, but I do think that could lead to control time. I do think that could lead to takedowns. I do think that could lead to top control time as well. 7,300. I don't need a big score out of him is the good thing. And I do see a path of victory for him where he could just kind of like outstrength Daukaus in the clinch and on the ground. So, yeah, sign me up for Dolidze. I don't think he'll be that popular. And I think he makes for an interesting pivot.
Yeah, I'm with you there. How about you, Weezy? What do you like for a dart throw?
Yeah, I was gonna say Leah Letson because that's the ultimate dart throw. Nobody even knows who she is, but I don't really see much of a path for her here. I was gonna say Thiago Moisés, and it's because I think that he's gonna be low owned, and I want to echo a lot of the points that AJ said earlier. When I was looking into that fight, I was thinking, oh my God, Álvarez has got a really nice submission game. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage. Maybe there are some reasons to like this guy. So I went back and I watched all the tape on him, and there's not any reasons to like this guy. I don't know how he's won so many fights. I don't know why people take him down. He has no striking, none. And somehow he kind of goats his opponents into taking him down with his ineffective striking because he throws a lot of kicks. Then he winds up on his back and he goes for guard submissions. And this is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion here in Thiago Moisés. If he wants to keep this standing, he can. And if he does keep it standing, I think he might even knock this dude out, because Álvarez is just not good on the feet. He's counted on his opponents taking him down, and he's also counted on his opponents having less, grappling chops than him. And, this is a case where Moisés can keep it standing if he wants to. Moisés is the better grappler, and he's by far the better striker here. So, once I looked into that fight, I kind of feel like Moisés is going to be low owned, but I also think that he should cruise in this spot.
Yep. I mean, I kind of, thought Álvarez was like sub or bust. And like you mentioned, subbing Moisés is not something easy to do at all. So, yeah, we will move on to our lineups for last week. Anybody in the chat? First of all, thank you for hanging out. Smash the like button. And second of all, if you guys have any questions at all, go ahead and type them now, and we will get to them in about a couple minutes. So we'll go over the lineups for last week. So in last place with 442.46, Uncle Weezy with Kamaru Usman, Pereira, Gaethje, Zhang Wei Li, Shabazian, and Covington. In third place, AJ with Edgar, Shabazian, Zhang Wei Li, Osborne, Gaethje, Usman, 445.25. And third place, Luke with Covington, Usman, Rose, Zhang. He did the double stack and worked out pretty good. Gaethje, Osborne. And then in first place, me, I did it. Gaethje, Covington, Quarantillo, Gary, Usman, and Zhang Wei Li, 520.3. Really, I'm happy with what I did with my lineup there from a cash perspective. Stacked the main event and then got Quarantillo down there who scored pretty well for a dog. So there we go. That's who won this week. And then moving on to this week, next week, or this week, we have, I'll start it out for the lineup. So we have Max Holloway up top. I feel like we're all going to have him. Give me Ben Rothwell. Give me Da Un Jung. Give me Cynthia Calvillo. Give me Williams. And give me Dolidze. Weezy, you have your lineup ready?
I do. I've got Max Holloway. I'm going to go with Courtney Casey, Ben Rothwell, Kennedy and Nzechukwu, Khaos Williams, and Rafael Alves.
Sounds good. How about you, Luke?
I'm going Colin Anglin, Khaos Williams, Max Holloway, Cynthia Calvillo, Ben Rothwell, Thiago Moisés.
Sounds good. And then you, AJ?
Yeah, so it's going to be Yair Rodriguez, Max Holloway, good old stack, Khaos Williams, Ben Rothwell, Da Un Jung, and Thiago Moisés.
Sounds good. So we'll get to some questions, then we'll give our picks and head out of here. So Freddie saying, nobody liking Yair. Anybody like Yair? Nope, nobody likes Yair. Freddie also saying, was Uncle Weezy allowed to pass candy out to kids this year? I don't know what that means.
Neither do I, man. I don't even have any candy here, dude. So no, I didn't pass anybody out. Nobody rings my bell because I got a Rottweiler barking at him. So yeah.
All right. So that's that. Alejandro saying, could you all give your most confident fight pick? So we'll start with you, Weezy. Weezy, if you had to give one confident fight pick, and let's not say Max Holloway.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not going to say Max Holloway because that is my most confident pick. I'm going to go with Ben Rothwell here. I have a money line bet on him. I think this fight finishes inside the distance. I'm really not impressed at all with Lima. And I think that Ben Rothwell's got a lot of ways to break him and just is all around way better than this guy. So that's my most confident pick.
Sounds good. How about you, Luke? You have a confident pick outside of Max Holloway?
Yeah, I'm going Thiago Moisés. I think it's an absolutely horrible stylistic matchup for Joel Álvarez. He's relying to sub Moisés, and guys like Wagner Hosha couldn't sub him. Richie Martinez couldn't sub him. I think a sub from him is pretty low percentage. He's got to knock him out, but we haven't seen any offensive striking from Álvarez. Moisés is the better striker. I think it's Moisés' best spot in 4 to 5 years.
Oh, wow. Sounds good. AJ, how about you? Confident pick outside of Max?
Yeah, it's Moises too. And one thing that I love to take advantage of, I feel like the community vastly overrates a fighter's record, right? Like it's encouraging when a fighter wins, they have a good record, no losses, and it convinces you almost that they're just going to keep winning. But you got to look at the style matchup. And as Luke said, this is a horrible stylistic matchup for Álvarez. Again, anything could happen in a fist fight. It's somewhere in the percentages, but you just put the narrative, the stats, the stylistic matchup. It's a really good spot for Moises. So we'll see what happens, but I feel very good about him.
Yeah, for me, it's between those two. It's between Thiago Moisés and Ben Rothwell. I'll go with Ben Rothwell. I'm confident in him this week. I know I probably shouldn't be, but I am surprisingly. MT saying, is everyone on Khaos? As far as like DraftKings, I'm using Khaos and DraftKings, but as far as a pick, I'm picking Baeza. Anybody actually picking Khaos Williams?
No, I think I'm picking Baeza, but the Khaos Williams play is one of those things that when you're handicapping cards as a whole, and it's something that I know that all of us do on this panel. You look at those betting lines because that's the most, it's the most complete area where we can look at information on what everybody is thinking, and then we can make our picks based off of what the field is thinking and compare it to the salaries. And with Khaos Williams being kind of a big underdog but also having a really good chance to finish this fight inside the distance, it makes for a great DraftKings play. But I actually think that Baeza wins this fight, but I think it's a little bit closer than what the bookies are saying it's lined right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Indigo saying, do you think his mom named him Khaos? I think his real name's like Kalen, if I'm not mistaken.
His mom did name him
but-
Khaos. That was a nickname because the kid was just evidently hell on wheels. So she called him Khaos, and it just stuck. That's like one of the stories. But yeah, his mother did name him that, but his name is Kalen. Yeah.
That is awesome. And then this is one. We'll give this one to AJ. AJ, what do you think of the Song Yadong fight? Any hot takes there?
I think it's really close. They're both great on the feet. They're both defensively sound wrestlers and grapplers. I think it's just going to come down to whoever's sharper that night. And as a handicapper, that's very, very tough for us to tell because I didn't think Yadong was going to be that much sharper to Kenny, but I watched that fight earlier today. He was way sharper than him. So it just depends on who's on that night. And it creates for a live betting angle. That would be the best way to play it. You just see who's landing the harder shots. Maybe the live betting market isn't wise to it. Maybe you want to make a wager there. So that would be how I'd play it. I barely edge Arce because he throws a bit more offense and he's longer, but again, very, very coin flippy.
Yeah, right there with you. Alejandro saying, great information, guys. Y'all rock. You rock as well for hanging out with us. We also have Indigo saying these guys constantly provide good analysis of fights. Really do appreciate that. I'm sure these guys do as well. So let's give our quick picks and head out of here. So for me, I'm going to go with Max Holloway. Give me Ben Rothwell, Felicia Spencer, Roma DeLizzi. Give me Song Yadong, Thiago Moisés, Cynthia Calvillo, Miguel Baeza, Sean Woodson, Courtney Casey, Rafael Alves, and then Da-Un Jung. Weezy, you have your quick picks.
Yeah, I'm going to go Holloway, Rothwell. I'm actually going Spencer. I don't like her, but I'll pick her. I'm going to go with DeLizzi. I'm going to go with Arce. I am picking Moisés, Calvillo, Baeza, Woodson, Casey, Alves, and then Chekwu.
Sounds good. How about you, Luke? What are your quick picks for this card?
I'm going Holloway, Rothwell, Spencer, Dawkins, Arce, Moisés, Calvillo, Baeza, Woodson, Casey, Jacasey. Oh, that's fun back-to-back. And Da-Un Jung.
Sounds good. And then you, AJ?
Yeah, it's going to be Holloway, Rothwell, Spencer, Dawkins, Arce, Moisés, Calvillo, Baeza, Woodson, Casey, Jacasey, and Jung.
Sounds good. Well, we did it, guys. I thought this was a very fun show. This card is tough, so definitely looking forward to it. So we'll kick it over to you, Weezy. Weezy, let them know what you got going on throughout the week. And also, you're going live tonight, right?
That's right. I'll be going live tonight, 10 p.m. Central Time on my channel for my full card breakdown, Just the Tip. And you can find me right here on Pub Sports Radio for this show every Tuesday and every Sunday night, 5:15 p.m. Central Time for Stat Diggers. And check me out on Twitter at MMA Weezy.
Sounds good. How about you, Luke?
Twitter, SWR_betting, patreon.com/SWR betting, bets, content for content, weekly pieces up there if you guys want to check that out. Obviously on here every week, and then over with the Club and Subboys on Wednesday night live on YouTube at 10 p.m. Eastern every week, breaking down these cards.
Sounds good. And AJ.
Yeah, posted UFC content as well as Bellator content because we got a Bellator event on Friday again. AJMMAbetting.com, also dailyfanmma.com. All the research for the card is done. I just got to put together a podcast when we get off here, and then also the written breakdown. So content should be up throughout the week. Cheers, guys. Best of luck to everybody. Let's do this.
Sounds good. Go check these guys out. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, YouTube is DFS by the numbers. Appreciate you all hanging out. JT, Kill, Bow Better, Freddie, Roy, OMG, Garrett, Bashy, all you guys, Dad Trader. You guys can leave a like on your way out. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We will see you back next week, as always, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Good luck, and let's make some money for UFC